You are listening to Brayford Radio. This recording was originally broadcast on the 1st of December 2016. For copyright reasons, this audio has been edited to remove any music being played during the show. We hope you enjoy the recording of Formula Tom, with me Tom Cairns, Martin Bulbrook, Harry Parker and Kathy Daniels. Good evening and welcome to Formula Tom on Brayford Radio. Joining me this evening is Martin Bulbrook, Harry Parker and Kathy Daniels, as we will be bringing our Abu Dhabi Grand Prix review show over the next hour. Obviously hosting the championship deciding round of Abu Dhabi that took place last weekend. We'll be also chatting about Formula 1's newest world champion and possibly one of the most controversial stories of F1 history involving Lewis Hamilton. You can be involved in the show via Twitter, sending in your tweets at Brayford Radio, or you can send us posts or messages via the Facebook pages of Formula Tom or Brayford Radio. Well guys, the season's over. Formula 1 has a new world champion. How did we witness?
We all thought it was going to happen. There was too much of a lead going into the last race. Lewis's tactics were questionable going into the last race, but he did what he thought he had to do. It wasn't enough, and Rosberg's world champion.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, there was a big gap, and I think everyone, even the biggest Lewis Hamilton fans, still, they had to think that it's just too much, because the Mercedes car is the fastest car out there, so you expect a 1-2 again, and well, Rosberg, even with Hamilton winning, it's enough to finish second.
Yeah, I think that Rosberg did have enough of a lead and it was inevitable, but sort of coming into the last few laps of the race, it was sort of on the edge a bit whether Verstappen and Vettel would overtake him because of obviously Hamilton's tactics, but in the end Rosberg won, which I think we did all see coming. So.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think on one side of me, I felt a little bit down because, Lewis Hamilton fought really, really well and I felt he would have been the well-deserved champion, but on one side of me, Formula 1 has a new world champion and, we like new faces taking the biggest prize of them all, don't we?
Yeah, Rosberg didn't put a foot wrong this season. I mean, apart from the 2 crashes with Hamilton. But other than that, he's done everything he had to do. He got himself the lead, and he did what he had to do this weekend. Finished second with a very quick Ferrari on that set of tyres. And Verstappen, you never know what he's going to do. So he did his job over the weekend. Deserved world champion.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, Sebastian Vettel, who was given the Driver Day Award, that for me is going to be his best performance in a long time in a Grand Prix.
It looked like last year's.
Yeah, like last year's. Last year, we mentioned that he got 13 podium finishes last year. Last weekend's was his 7th podium this year. So he'll be looking to go, do more of that in 2017 with the new regulations.
Verstappen's drive after he spun to get himself to where he finished as well.
So quickly as well.
Yeah, both of them drove so well.
Mm-hmm. Martin, how did you feel about Vettel's drive? Because that was out of the blue, wasn't it?
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of his old Red Bull days where he was fantastic. There's no other word for it. He was fantastic on that race, and he has been lacking that form all season, and it's glad to see him that he's got it back. Hopefully he can bring it back into next year, because then I think he'll be right up there challenging the Mercedes.
Yeah, I have to say, looking a little bit down the order, Felipe Massa finished his final race in 9th position. A good way to finish after what's been a very, very difficult season for him and for Williams, but a good way to bow out of Formula
1. Yeah, it is. At least it's points. Mm-hmm. That's the main thing for him. He's gone out in a point-scoring fashion. He'll be remembered as, unfortunately, probably the driver that nearly did. Mm. But you can't take anything away from him. He's been an exceptional driver, a good servant to F1.
Kathy?
Yeah, in some ways you sort of have that dream, like you hope Massa and Button in their final race they can sort of get up to the top, but obviously that was completely impossible. But I think it is a good way for Massa to finish his season, and it does sort of show that he is a good driver, he can still get cars in the points.
Jenson Button, as you mentioned, Kathy, also featured in his final, what looked to be his final Formula 1 race. It was really disappointing. He didn't think he touched anything, but we saw what happened. Yeah. He touched the sleeping policeman curb, let's say, at the end of that first at the end of the first back straight. I mean, I felt so sorry for him. I really felt sorry for him. It almost reminded me of David Coulthard in his final race in 2008. I mean, that's a replica of it.
Yeah. I would say it is. Obviously, Jenson Burton, it'd have been nice to see him finish. Unfortunately, he didn't. He got, obviously, the standing ovation, fully deserved, and he has been a great driver. Will we see him again in the car? I'm not sure we will, but
I don't think so.
I still think we'll see him around the pits every now and again and that.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Lewis Hamilton, did you feel that he had the right to ignore the team orders, especially the most important race of the season?
As long as he was in the lead, for me, then there's no need to worry. If he's in the lead, he obviously had the pace to pull away. There was never any question of that. He was so much quicker than everybody else on that track. But obviously Mercedes need to keep the 1-2 because they have to. So you can argue both sides, but it made the race. It would have made a procession race. It made a procession race more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better for the spectators. Whether it's better for the teams, I don't know.
Kathy, how did you feel when Hamilton was holding Rosberg up deliberate? Because that was deliberate, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely was. I think in some ways, like, it did create an interesting last few laps because obviously it allowed the Ferrari and the Red Bull to close up. But then in other ways, you do sort of think, well, he's still fighting for the championship, so he should have sort of shown the pace of his car, proved that he can win the race easily, and sort of fought for the championship that way. Sort of like, you understand why he does it, but I don't think he should have done.
Yeah, I mean, I felt he had the right. I don't think for the team. I think for the team, for like Mercedes, I felt they were being too greedy for their own good, really, in terms of the circumstances, because they've already won the Constructors' Championship, and I don't see why, because they were too scared of allowing those two to race. Because we saw what happened in Barcelona, we saw what happened in Canada, and we saw what happened in Austria when those two came to blows. I felt they had nothing to lose anyway, so why can't you just let them go out racing and just fight for the title as everyone thought they would battle it out in the most manly way possible?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, well, it's their individual race. At the end of the day, it's their championship they're fighting for now. They're not fighting for anything for Mercedes in this final race. Hamilton knows that Rosberg finishing second is not good enough, so he's got to do all he can. And I think as long as he's not purposely causing a severe collision, he was well in order to do what he done, because he was only slowing him up. He wasn't making it running him off the track or anything like that. He was literally just slowing him up.
Just go through the results. Hamilton, despite missing out on the World Championship, he claimed his 53rd Grand Prix win, his 10th of the season, more than Nico Rosberg. Rosberg following home, just under half a second behind him in second place to earn his first world title. And it's Vettel in third for Ferrari, his first since Monza. Verstappen in fourth for Red Bull, followed by Daniel Ricciardo in fifth, just over 5 seconds behind the winner. Raikkonen in sixth. Then Hülkenberg ending his last race for Force India in 7th, with Perez closely behind in 8th, Massa in 9th, and Fernando Alonso taking the final points in the McLaren in 10th place, followed by Grosjean, Gutierrez, Ocon, Verline, Ericsson, Nasr and Palmer completing the finishes, with Sainz, Kvyat, Button, Bottas and Magnussen all failing to finish. So about the nothing too much to clear up. I mean, the Manor cars, they finished their both sours, but still, sadly, not enough to overhaul them in the Constructors. But it's been a good season for them, in some respects. Yeah. It's been by far the most performable car they've had since their F1 debut. What do they need to build on for next year?
Well, they've got some new investors coming in, don't they?
Yes.
So hopefully the injection of money will help them out. We've seen a far more, you can't really call it competitive, but a better car from them. They've obviously got points. Ocon finishing well. Unfortunately, he's not with them next year. The lineup isn't confirmed yet.
No, but he's rumoured to be within that Sauber seat, although it's not certain they will be going as yet. Okay. But I think Manor need him more than Sauber do.
Yeah. So maybe just the extra injection may help them.
Kathy, Manor ended the season on a high, finishing ahead of both Saubers and the Renault, but obviously missing out. What can they do to build on next year?
I think it's just sort of more investment, sort of like, hopefully they can keep the drivers they get for the whole season, so hopefully sort of like sponsorship doesn't run out and things like that, so that they can work with drivers for a whole season and sort of build on that, because that for the past couple of seasons now, they've had drivers sort of drop out halfway through.
Yeah.
So I think just those relationships within the team.
Yeah, I mean, both Manners are finishing over Saubers, but as I've already mentioned, they missed out on the constructors as well. I mean, how impressed have you been with them?
To be fair, I'm impressed with both Manor and Sauber for even getting points this season. I didn't think they would. They came out with a very below par car, to say the least, at the start, and they've made it work. Yeah, they've only got 2 and 1 points, but it's still points. It's still something to build on for next year, and they've just got to keep believing in themselves and build on the points which they have scored this year.
Yeah, I mean, I've been happy with them this season. I think by far this has been the best car they've had since their F1 but they don't want to be like, Minardi being at the back of the grid all the time, because you can't survive being at the rear of the grid, so they need to make a break sooner rather than later. But the person who is rumoured to be buying the team, he was the one who was responsible for getting the Circuit of the Americas off the ground, and sort of with Mexico as well, so he has like a sort of American and Mexican connection, which is apparent that apparently I should say Gutierrez being linked with a Man C. But we'll have to wait and see throughout this month if Gutierrez does end up being confirmed by any team for next year. The fastest pit stop award for Abu Dhabi went to Red Bull with a time of 2.11 seconds. The fastest lap award went to Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari, and the Driver of the Day award went to Vettel as well. In the championship, just quickly go over the final standings in the Drivers' Championship. Nico Rosberg winning the title by 5 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton in second place, 385 to 380. Then it's Daniel Ricciardo in third with 256. Vettel in fourth with 212. Max Verstappen with a race win this year, he's finished on 204 in fifth. And it's Kimi Raikkonen finishing in sixth with 186. Then it's Perez ending his best finish in his Formula 1 career with 101 points. It's Bottas in 8th with 85, Hulkenberg in 9th with 72, and Fernando Alonso in 10th with 54. Massa ending his final Formula 1 season in 11th with 53, Carlos Sainz in 12th with 46. So who's made the biggest improvements out of everybody this season compared to maybe last year?
Perez drove incredibly this year.
Yeah.
Verstappen as well, but for me, Perez, to see what he's done with that car to outperform Hulkenberg, who many people see as an excellent driver, just shows how good Perez is.
Martin, who's impressed you the most and who's improved?
I'd say the person who's impressed me the most is Verstappen. Just thinking about his drive in Brazil was amazing for someone so young, and I think if he's in the Red Bull car all season, he'd have finished above Vettel, possibly above Ricciardo, not sure, but I certainly think he'd been up there. And also, as you said, Perez had a great season this year, beating Hulkenberg, and I also think Alonso's done well finishing where he has, with how poor the McLaren car has been performing all season.
Yeah.
I mean, just going through the remaining of the standings, Grosjean ending his first season for Haas with 13th with 29 points. Haas's only point scorer this year. Kvyat in 14th with 25. Then it's Jenson Button ending his what looks to be his final Formula 1 season in 15th with 21. Magnussen in 16th with 7. Nasser in 17th with 2. Then it's Palmer in 18th with 1. Verline in 19th with 1. Van Dorn 20th with 1. Leaving Gutierrez, Ericsson, Ocon and Haryanto failing to score in 2016. Go through the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes by far the most superb team this year. They finished 297 points ahead of Red Bull from 765 to 468. It's Ferrari in third with 398. Force India ending the year with their highest ever finish with 173 points. Williams in 5th with 138, McLaren in 6th with 76, Toro Rosso in 7th with 63, Haas ending their inaugural Formula 1 season in 8th with 29, then it's Renault in 9th with only 8 points, Sauber in 10th, crucially with 2 points ahead of Manor, finishing with 1, so which means all 11 teams have scored points this year. For you folks to share your thoughts from the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix this weekend, do please tweet in at Brayford Radio, alternatively sending us posts and messages via the Facebook pages of Formula Tom and Brayford Radio, and along with answering our first question of the evening. And the question is, in what year did Nico Rosberg's father, Keke, claim his only world championship? In what year did Nico Rosberg's father, Keke, claim his only world championship? The answer will be given to you later after George Ezra's Blame It On Me. This is Tom Cairns on Formula Tom. You are listening to Brayford Radio. And that was waiting for Blame It On... Blame It On Me by George Ezra. I was thinking of another song title actually that I got a little bit mixed on, but yeah, it's Blame It On Me by George Ezra. The question we asked a few minutes ago was, in what year did Nico Rosberg's father, Keke, claim his only world championship? Did you have any guesses, guys?
I said 83.
I went for 82, and my dad also went for 82.
Yeah, I went for 82 as well.
Okay, my mum went for 84. I can tell you the answer is 1982. So very well done, Kathy. And very well done to Mr. Bulbrook back home for getting. Yeah, so 34 years, yeah. So 1982 was the year that Keke Rosberg claimed his only world championship that year, and believe it or not, he was one of 11 race winners that year, and he only won once out of 16 races en route to the championship.
Finishing consistently then.
Yeah, finishing consistently.
Same for Rosberg.
Yeah, it's an irony, isn't there? Yeah, my mum also came in saying, what do you think the chances are of Alonso quitting at some point next season and Jenson Button getting another drive?
From, like, the way that Jenson was, like, looking around the paddock and everything, I think he's done. I don't think he wants to come back and drive. I think he's had enough of this car not being competitive enough for him. He expected a whole lot more and he's not got it. I think he's done racing for McLaren, particularly.
So. Well, he's got one more year in his contract with the team and he wants to win with them.
Yeah, but I don't see McLaren winning next year.
No.
And I don't think Jenson would come back in unless he knew the car was at least competitive. So I don't think it'd happen.
Martin, your response?
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's going to be Alonso just do the whole season, maybe retire at the end of the season. I think there's possibly quite a high chance of him retiring at the end of the season because that sort of generation is now going out, with obviously Massa now leaving, Burton now leaving. So I think it might be Alonso's last year, but I can't see him. I think he'll want to end the whole season on a high.
Kathy, what do you think about Alonso's close to finishing Formula 1 and Jenson getting another drive? Do you see that happening? Oh, I mean, we don't feel it, do we?
No, I don't think he will. I mean, the way he was sort of conducting himself after the race, it did sort of seem like he was done. Like, that's it. He's sort of finished with Formula 1 now. Going to go on to sort of different things and race in different championships because Button wants to win and he's not going to win with McLaren anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, Alonso, they've got Stoffel Van Dorn coming in. I think it's going to be a real asset to the team. Podiums, I think, are perhaps going to be the big target for them, but I don't know how close they'll be to challenging. So I think if they have a good pre-season with consistency and reliability in Barcelona, come the first race in Melbourne, I think they'll be should be maybe on terms with at least Force India and Williams consistent on the pace with them.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I don't know if they will get podiums. I mean, they haven't had a podium finish since Australia 2014. Although it was just one of their drivers on the podium that day, and it became two because Ricciardo got the disqualification that day, didn't he? Coming away from that, let's talk about Formula 1's newest world champion, and that is Nico Rosberg, who has become the second son of a world champion to win the title himself. Damon Hill, of course, was the other son of Graham Hill to win the title. But this has by far been Nico Rosberg's best season. Do you think that had he not won the championship, that was his best chance gone?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the mechanical gremlins in Lewis's car gave Nico the chance and he took it.
I'm happy for him, but I felt Lewis was hard done by mechanical problems. You know, he had the issue in China, he had the issue in Russia in Q3, he had the issue in Belgium, he had the coming together in Spain. with Rosberg, and he had the mechanical failure most famously in Malaysia. But looking at these statistics on the comparison between Hamilton and Rosberg, the best qualifier between the two has been Hamilton, 12.9. The best race results has been 10.9 to Hamilton, but obviously the points had gone in Rosberg's favour, which is the most important thing. But I do remember years ago, there was like a suggestion in the FIA saying the driver with the most wins the championship, but they turned that down, didn't they?
It was like the medal system, something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a fan of that, but I just feel points are what's going to be the most consistent thing for a championship. But do you think Hamilton was hard done by, from his luck he's had with the qualifying and with the races? Because qualifying he was completely back. So I'm trying to think of the word. But do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah. At the end of the day, what's actually cost Lewis? Sure, it's a bit of bad luck, but it's his starts for the majority of the season. If he'd had better starts earlier in the season, completely different story.
Yeah, I mean Suzuka and Monza, I felt was, those were two bad points in the season, and he only got himself to blame for it, and he admitted that.
Yeah.
He only got himself to blame for it, which he took it like a man. But he did say before the end of the season that if he had lost, he would have taken it like a man. And to be honest, I think he's taken it like a man. I don't think he's moaned about it. I think he's just felt he did come out saying where he had gone wrong. Obviously the Malaysia failure and the race starts. I mean,
I liked what he like the little photo that he put with him and Nico saying that they'd be world champions one day. I think it was a picture of them karting together, but I like that. So he has taken the result. Rosberg won it fair and square.
Martin?
Yeah, I do think, I'd say over the season, Hamilton's probably been the better driver. Obviously, his poor starts and his reliability issues has cost him the title, but yeah, he has been a true man about it. He's took it. He hasn't been really upset about it. Hasn't made loads of bad press. He's just took it, got on with it, and been like, fair enough, I lost, but
he's been in the situation. I think he's been in the worst situation. You remember Max in his rookie year where he made a mistake at the penultimate race in China, and he lost the championship in the final race in Brazil. And now in his career, he's won 3 world championships, and he's lost 3 world championships in the final round. He missed out on 3 world championships in the final round. So he is, for me, still the better driver than Rosberg on paper.
On paper, yes.
But I'm pretty sure he'll come back fighting next year, for sure.
Lewis, if the car's as good as it was this year, will be world champion.
Yeah.
He
providing
wants it.
Yeah, providing the reliability.
Yeah, providing the car's as quick and as reliable as it was for Rosberg this year, he will win the world championship.
Because I mean, there's a lot of races this year that he's never won before. I mean, Austria, never won there before. He had Mexico, never won there before, and Brazil, which he never won before. So there are a lot of high points for Hamilton this year. He's won his home race in Silverstone.
Yeah, again.
Yeah, for the 4th time. I think next year, Hamilton stands a good chance of being world champion, provided.
So.
But I don't know how the new regulations could take a toll on any of the teams, really.
Any of the teams could be good. I mean, we hear everybody saying, "Oh yeah, the new regulations going to make like Ferrari and everyone so good," but Mercedes aren't going to sit back and let it just happen, are they?
No. No. I mean, I think Hamilton will come back fighting. I mean, Kathy, do you think Hamilton will come back fighting next year?
I think he will, but I don't think it's sort of a sure enough thing to say, like, if the car's quick, he'll be champion, because obviously, like, Rosberg now knows what it's like to win a championship, and I think sort of this year he's been very consistent, sort of like he's been very determined, got his head down, got the job done. So I think obviously there's that to take into account, and then you've got people like Verstappen, Red Bull are clearly improving, Ricciardo, and then the Ferraris might get better. So it's sort of everyone's going to become, I think, a lot more competitive, and the new regulations mean that it's going to switch things up a bit. So sort of no one's going to like know where they stand. Everyone's going to get used to new things. So I don't think it's sort of like a surefire thing. Like if Mercedes are quick, Hamilton will win.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a feeling Mercedes will still be up there, but I don't know how big of a margin is going to be ahead of the rest of the field. I mean, they could end up behind Red Bull at some point, or even Ferrari. If you go back to pre-season, Ferrari, they were very, very good, and I really thought they were going to be the team to beat this year.
You always thought Mercedes was sandbagging it though. I did.
Yeah, I always thought they were.
Yeah, they always played the long game, don't they?
Yeah, they always in testing they always show themselves to be slower. So and Ferrari just came out raw pace, show as quick as they can be. Mercedes eased himself into winning in the first race. You just could tell the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, whilst we've been sharing our thoughts on Rosberg, whilst we have been sharing our thoughts on Rosberg, if you have any F1 news that you want us to discuss, do please tweet in at Brayford Radio or send us posts or messages via the Facebook pages of Formula Tom or Brayford Radio. Here's your second question of the evening, and the question is, including Nico Rosberg, how many drivers had won the World Championship after starting their career at Williams? Including Nico Rosberg, how many drivers had won the World Championship after starting their career at Williams? The answer will be given after Ed Sheeran's Thinking Out Loud. This is Tom Cairns on Formula Tom. You are listening to Brayford Radio. And that was Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran. The question we asked around 5 minutes ago was, including Nico Rosberg, how many drivers had won the World Championship after starting their career at Williams? Did you guys have any guesses at all?
Nope.
I went for a complete guess of 7.
I just said 5.
I went with 10. And I know I'm wrong.
Okay. My dad came in with 5, my mum came in with 6. I can tell you the answer is 3. Only 3. So Nico Rosberg started his career with Williams in 2006 and won the title with Mercedes.
Yeah.
Jenson Button started his Formula 1 career with Williams in 2000 and won the title with Braun GP in 2009. And Jacques Villeneuve started his career with the Williams team in 96 and won the World Championship with them in the following year in 97. So if you said 3 and you name all those drivers, very well done indeed. Now, we've got some posts coming in, guys. We'll start off with at Trophy Gem. Do you think Verstappen will be a future world champion, and do you think he could challenge for the title next season?
Yes, I think he will. I think as long as the Red Bull car is good enough, it don't have to be. I don't think it even has to be the fastest, out and out fastest. If it's just slower, I still think he can make it work and get up there.
Kathy?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's brave enough to sort of go for the gap, take the overtakes, take the risks on circuit. So even if the car isn't the fastest one on the track, I feel like he's got enough potential and the bravery to push the car to its limits.
Yeah, Harry, do you think Verstappen can challenge for the title next season?
I don't know, because it definitely depends on the car. Sure, the Red Bull wasn't that quick this year and Verstappen's done very well to get where he is, but it's still, everything depends on the car. Mercedes just full this year. If it's that again, Verstappen won't challenge for the championship because the car won't let him.
Yeah, I was going to say, there was another post from Caroline Milo saying, do you agree with Hamilton's tactics in the last race?
Yes, I agree with it. I think it's, at the end of the day, it is a fight just between them two. Nothing else was to play for. The manufacturer championship had been sealed, so I think he had the right to do whatever he wanted as long as it wasn't super dangerous driving and causing collisions.
Kathy?
I don't think he did. I can understand why he did it, but I think he should have raced for the win, because people say Rosberg, he wanted to win, he should have tried to overtake, won the race to prove he's a champion. Well, same goes for Hamilton. He should have shown that he could win the race easily to prove that he is a champion. So no, I don't think it was right.
Yeah, Harry, what did you think of Hamilton's slowing down tactics?
It was a little bit iffy, but he did what he thought he needed to do in order to win. He explicitly said that, and at the end of the day, he still won the race. Said he still got 1-2, and Rosberg's still world champion, so it'll all be forgotten.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on now. It's that time of the show, especially for you, Martin, where we need to discuss. Exactly, yes. The question is, how did we do for the final time in 2016? Well, I can tell you, for the second race running, it was me who was the winner in Abu Dhabi. For you, Martin, unfortunately, not a good finish.
No, I didn't get my predictions in this weekend. My uni work got over the top of me, so all my points were literally straight off my pit wall. But I knew coming into this weekend, I've had a couple of poor weeks before it. I'd fallen quite off of battling for second, so I knew I'd pretty much gonna finish 5th anyway.
Harry? Oh well, I mean you weren't involved in the league, but what did you predict for the weekend?
I went Hamilton, Rosberg, I think Verstappen.
Yeah,
It would have been Verstappen or Ricciardo for me. I wouldn't have predicted Vettel.
Kathy, did you predict for the race weekend?
I think I did say Hamilton, Rosberg, Vettel, being a bit optimistic on Vettel.
You weren't just saying that, just what happened last weekend.
No, I'm sure, like, I did say Vettel.
Yeah. For myself, I went for Hamilton, Rosberg, Verstappen, but Verstappen finished 4th. I mean, I got the top 2 correct and the pole sitter, so I got 30 points from that. So the fact that I won last weekend, that has guaranteed me 2nd place in the overall standings. Just quick before we go on to the championship standings, just quickly run through the results from Abu Dhabi. Bringing up the rear with 74 points, it's Honey Badger GP. Then it's Team Martin with 85 in 6th, Red Bull Dog GP in 5th with 96. Then it's Mark's Mercedes GP with 4th with 107. Then it's Delta F1 in 3rd with 115. Team Jedi in 2nd with 126. And for the 3rd time this year, I've won in a round, 132 points. The question is, how does that affect the final reckoning for this year? Well, I'd like to say congratulations to Mark's Mercedes GP, our 2016 Formula Tom Badger GP champion. He's won it with 2,619 points, and it's Meekans Racing with 2,487. Then it's Team Jedi in 3rd with 2,430. Delta F1 in 4th with 2,413. Then it's Team Martin finishing 5th with 2,295. Honey Badger GP in 6th with 2,107, and Red Bull Dog GP bringing up the rear with 1,994. So, I don't want to rub it in your face, Martin, but your dad's beating you convincingly.
Yeah, I know.
I bet he's laughing his head off now whilst we've been talking on it.
Even if I'd done my predictions this weekend, I knew I wouldn't have got to him. I think I finished bottom in Brazil. I think I finished bottom in Mexico, or 2nd from bottom. I had really bad weeks. United States, I think I finished like 4th anyway. So just the end of the season has been absolutely awful for me.
When was the last time you won a round?
I think it's Italy.
Was it Italy?
I think Italy.
I think it was as well. I mean, Brazil and Abu Dhabi, before Brazil and Abu Dhabi, the only time I won was in Austria. So that's 3 times I've won. I think you've won 3.
Yeah, I won 3, but I won mine quite early on. Because I won Bahrain.
Because you were at 2nd place in 1 point overall, weren't you?
Yeah, I think it's Bahrain. I think I've then done Canada, and then it's definitely Italy.
Alright, okay. Harry, I mean, we know you and... Harry and Kathy as well. I mean, you'll be in the league next season.
Yep.
Yeah, as debutants. How would you go about it? Because obviously you've got not just the pit walls as your dream things, but also as your predictions. You need to be reminded every time when you need to do them.
Yeah.
But what would we need to do to knock Mark's Mercedes GP off his perch?
Well, you've got a lot of ground to make up by the looks of it.
Yeah. Bear in mind, I did close
points, Tom?
Pardon?
How many points is it?
132, but 2 races ago it was more than that.
Yeah, it was way more than that, if I remember rightly, but it just clearly worked the way that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'd go about doing it.
Yeah.
Whether you just go for an excellent pit wall and not so great drivers, or whether you spread it out 50-50 and have like decent in both. I don't know how.
I mean, bearing in mind, what is very, very sneaky at times is people go for drivers who may have a bad qualifying but do well in the races, because when in Spa, Hamilton started at the back of the grid. People who had Hamilton and Alonso who started on the back row came through and finished 3rd and 7th in the end. They would have got very, very good points for that. I mean, that's something to keep an eye out on. So if you go into the race weekend knowing that if the driver is almost certain to be starting at the back of the grid, you might think, I might go for a punt on that driver and see how he does in the race. And if it gets through at the back, makes at least 10 places, then that's good points earned. Yeah,
because we also had, I can't remember which race it was, one at the very start we had Grosjean, where he had an absolutely fantastic drive, and I think he got me a bonus of like 35 points.
Did you have him?
Yeah, I had it.
Yeah, that was back in Australia.
Yeah.
He started 19th on the grid and he finished 6th, and that was in Haas's first race as well.
And that got me loads of points, so I kept him all season.
Yeah. I mean, I was speaking to Mark's Mercedes GP around that time as well after the weekend, and he couldn't believe how Grosjean did. I mean, I didn't think Haas were that slow before the race started. I mean, because of that qualifying system we had, I didn't think they were that slow, and the race showed it. I mean, Gutierrez has been unlucky. I think in the early part of the season, first 2 races he didn't finish, and Grosjean was the one that was picking up all the points.
Yeah. How many 11th places did Gutierrez?
He had 5, I believe.
And then he also had quite
one change of fortune.
He had a couple of not finishes as well. It just wasn't his
just not his year at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with my finish. I mean, I didn't think I'd be finishing second, to be honest, after the summer break. I thought I was going to finish either 3rd or 4th, but because of the predictions I've had lately, last 2 races of the season especially, or 3 races perhaps, I've done very well to finish second. So my hats go off to Max Mercedes GP for wherever you are. Very well done this year of claiming the inaugural Formula Tom Badger GP title. Whilst we've been sharing our results, you can be involved in the show via Twitter, sending in your tweets at Brayford Radio, along with answering our 3rd and final question for this evening. And the question is, in F1's inaugural season in 1950, how many points were on offer for a race win? Okay, in F1's inaugural season in 1950, how many points were on offer for a race win? The answer we're given after Fatboy Slay's Praise You. This is Tom Cairns on Formula Tom. You are listening to Brayford Radio. That was Praise You by Fatboy Slim. The question we asked before we left is, in F1's inaugural season in 1950, how many points were on offer for a race win? Any guesses, guys?
I had no idea, but my dad messaged in and said 8, unless you got fastest lap, then you got 9.
No, I didn't.
I'll probably guess around 5 again.
Okay.
I would guess 3.
I could say, well, my mum came in with 8, my dad came in with 10, and I could tell you the answer is 8 points. So if you said 8 points, well done. The top 5 were only allowed points at that time, 8, then 6, and then 4, and then 3, and then 2. So that's how the point system worked at that time. So if you said 8 points, very, very well done indeed. From Andy Myers just coming in saying, what do you think will be the biggest change to the cars next year, and who it will benefit most? Well, it's a tough question, that, isn't it? It's a tough question to answer. I mean, I'll give my viewpoint on it. I think the biggest change to the cars, obviously, the fuel tanks. Yeah, because the cars are going to be up to 5 seconds a lap faster than they have been this year. The question is, well, who's going to be the most benefit most out of it? And I think Mercedes probably have to be one of those. So.
You can't see past them at the moment. They're too dominant currently. So yeah, probably
even more dominant than what Red Bull were.
Yeah. And that's saying something.
Yeah.
How many... Have they won the same amount as Red Bull in a row now?
Well, they won 19 races in the season.
Yeah, I was referring to Constructors' Championships.
In 3 drivers and 3 Constructors' Championships now.
Okay, so they're...
Well,
close.
plus the one, I think, in 1955 and Juan Manuel Fangio did it, or 54 rather. But I think it's 4 times. Yeah, I think they've won 4 drivers, but bearing in mind, Constructors' Championships didn't exist until 1958, so it would have been 3 Constructors' Championships for Mercedes.
So they're closing in on Red Bull, but it's the manner in which they've just obviously won 19 races.
Yeah, 19 races out, which is a new record. Yeah, 19 wins out of 21 for Mercedes this year, which is a record. Another question from Andy Miley coming in with saying, who are your top 3 guesses for the Drivers' Championship next year? Go on if you dare. LOL at the end of that.
Hamilton, Rosberg, Ricciardo.
Hamilton, Verstappen, Ricciardo.
Verstappen, Hamilton, Ricciardo.
I'm the only one that's gone for Rosberg to at least have a chance to retain it.
I'm going for Hamilton, Rosberg, Verstappen.
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen for me. Just quickly go on to now, I want to talk about the news that came in on Monday, obviously, with the Lewis Hamilton situation. British newspapers came out on Monday morning claiming that Hamilton will either be suspended by the Mercedes team or possibly be sacked, have his contract terminated. I was terribly shocked on Monday morning. I mean, were you?
Yeah, I was. I still can't see it happening.
No, it won't happen.
Hamilton's just too big a personality, and obviously everyone, first name they say at the minute when you think F1 is Hamilton. So why would a team want that much publicity going away from him? I just can't see him getting rid of him.
The thing is, Hamilton can walk into any team he wanted to. That's what he's got. He could, if he wanted to, he could walk into Ferrari, like tomorrow. And just say,
any team.
Any team would be great. Imagine walking into Manor.
Yeah.
Any team would be
great.
Yeah, I mean, Mano could do with the money from Hamilton anyway, couldn't they? Kathy, how did you feel when the news came out on Monday morning?
I find it quite unbelievable. I don't think it is going to happen. I mean, the amount of publicity Hamilton causes as well. I mean, even if it's sort of good or bad, it's still sort of like the brand of F1 is sort of being put out there. So that, alongside the fact like he is a good racing driver, I can't see them sacking him. I can sort of see maybe at the start of the season, if he ignores team orders or things like that, I can see him sort of like getting reprimanded or things like that, but I don't think he'll get sacked.
Yeah, I mean, Fleet Street and The Guardian came out, and The Telegraph, believe it or not, saying that Hamilton could possibly be suspended by the Mercedes team. But the question is, would Mercedes really sack Hamilton? Well, reports saying that the prospect of Mercedes taking such draconian action as either sacking Hamilton or suspending him remains remote. Although Rosberg has been crowned champion, Hamilton is still the team's number one asset heading into a rules refresh season in 2017, when Mercedes are expected to face stiff opposition from Red Bull and possibly even McLaren. While Mercedes, who wrapped up the Constructors' Championship 3 races ago, have insisted their fears about losing the race to either Ferrari or Red Bull were valid, Hamilton is adamant he had the race under control, while even Rosberg had admitted he could understand his rivals' tactics. I mean, I think if Hamilton was to be set, I mean McLaren. I mean, it's no laughing matter, Harry. It's no laughing matter. You never know. I mean,
if they go on to win the championship next year, I don't know. I was going to look so bad.
But I think for Mercedes to sack Hamilton, I think that'll be a disgrace to the sport, let alone the driving.
This is a classic case of sensationalising something that happened. It Hamilton probably shouldn't have done it anyway, but there won't really be any repercussions because Mercedes can't afford to lose him.
No, because they need him.
Yeah.
Because he's, as it said on there, it's that he's their number one asset to the team.
Definitely.
McLaren might win it if Hamilton walks out and goes to McLaren.
Wouldn't do that after Dennis has gone there.
I mean, McLaren's new executive director, Zach Brown, who's been appointed as Ron Dennis's successor, let's say, he believes that when Hamilton's contract expires in 2018, he could possibly make a move back to McLaren.
No, I think it'll be Ferrari.
You think he'll be at Ferrari?
Yeah, I think he's always had the law to want to drive for Ferrari.
Kathy, do you think Hamilton could return to McLaren when his Mercedes contract expires in 2 years' time?
I think Mercedes will probably work too hard to keep him. I don't think he would go back to McLaren. I can't really see him anywhere else other than Mercedes, to be honest. I don't think he would go to Ferrari. I think they're probably would want to keep Vettel. But then again, like Raikkonen, he might.
Imagine Hamilton and Vettel in the same team. That just would not go well.
I mean, we've seen the rivalry over the years. It's almost like a Senna-Prost rivalry, but bearing in mind, Hamilton-Rosberg is very much a Senna-Prost rivalry.
It didn't happen.
Even my mum has just come in saying she thinks Hamilton could possibly move to Renault.
That'd be interesting.
It depends how quick they are, actually, because obviously they've shown intent with Hulkenberg.
And Hulkenberg, I mean, Hamilton does get on well with Hulkenberg at times, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he used to get on with Rosberg. He used to get on with pretty much every one of his teammates.
But Renault need to improve their car for that to happen, because they got 8 points this entire season.
Yeah.
Hamilton's no way going to go to a team like that.
Imagine how much Hamilton's going to get paid if he could say, look, I'm just going to move there. Which how much Mercedes are paying per race? Because what's he on at the moment per week? Like £374,000.
I think he's the sportsman's most paid. Sportsman.
Yeah, it's like could be on £500,000 a week.
Yeah,
and he don't pay tax because he lives in Monaco.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I'd really love to go on, guys, but we are out of time, unfortunately. Thank you guys for listening and sending your tweets and answers this evening. Do make sure you join in next week's show where me, Harry, Callum Hartley and Jack Murphy will be presenting our review of this year's championship. From me, Martin, Harry and Kathy, have a good first weekend of December and we'll talk to you again next week. This is Tom Kent on Formula Tom. You are listening to Brayford Radio.